President Jayawardena, Your Excellency Mr. Nagendranath Jha and Mrs. Shaya Jha, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure and privilege to welcome all of you today to the third annual Ananda Coomaraswamy Memorial Oration sponsored by the Cultural Survival Trust, United States, shortly before his expressed desire to spend his retirement in the India that he loved so much. We are especially privileged today to have no less a person than President J.R. Jayawardena to deliver the 1991 memorial oration on the subject of his choice, entitled Sri Lanka's Quest for Freedom, 1818 to 1948. We are indeed grateful to him for having consented to be our chief guest tonight before such an impressively large and learned a gathering. This gathering is therefore both a tribute to him as the undisputed elder statesman of the Asian region, as much as it is to the memory of the scholar savant whom we salute today. We are also most happy to have with us His Excellency Mr. Nagendranath Jha, India's High Commissioner, an old and proven friend of Sri Lanka, who is today our guest of honor, and who will also speak to us on the ties that matter in today's global context between India and Sri Lanka. Annual gatherings such as this also become meaningful as it helps us to identify the role we are pledged to play in a developing society such as ours. The cultural survival, through its active efforts, seeks to influence and prevent the uncontrolled march of institutionalized development. It seeks to protect the future generations, it seeks to protect for future generations Sri Lanka's most precious renewable resource, its natural and cultural heritage. It seeks to reiterate Sri Lanka's signal contribution to world culture, its tranquil way of living, hallowed in the history books by the name of serendipity. Sustainability and survival are demonstrable byproducts of this way of living, and the Trust intends to portray the prototype so that its underlying principles are widely understood. Thus, cultural survival will be helping smaller rural societies to live and interact with modern society as equal partners. Cultural Survival is an independent, non-profit NGO managed and maintained by volunteers, local and foreign, drawn from both the urban and heartland areas of Lanka. Our program has received the patronage of His Excellency, the President of Sri Lanka, Mr. Ranasinghe Premadasa, who has always given us his encouragement, several ministries of the government, the High Commission for India in Sri Lanka, Mr. Lionel Coulter and the management of the Taj Samudra Colombo, Dr. David Bellamy of the Conservation Foundation in Britain, the United Nations Authority in Sri Lanka, the famous British ecologist Edward Goldsmith, Balfour PT Construction International Limited, and several other friends associated with our work. Was the breakdown of the practical wisdom and common sense that we learned at our mother's feet. A Christ which was all too quickly abandoned for a book-taught culture which had become the teacher of modern Lanka for too long. There was this fundamental breakdown in communication, and that is why the CST is in the business of rebuilding the broken bridges of communications and attempting the relinkage between urban and rural mentalities. We have too long given up the face-to-face dialogue of the past. The mass media became the new intermediary. The simple values and virtues were lost to an all-encompassing modernization of thought processes and lifestyles. The old, simple traditions of talking across the village fence, the sharing of the same pot, whether it be rice or toddy, the participation and sharing in all the work of harvesting, the singing of the same harvest songs, whether they be in Sinhala, Tamil or even Hindi. The pristine watersheds of Mother Earth were replaced by the frontiers of suspicion and hatred. The frontiers were then based on the natural watershed. Now they have become political frontiers. The Abhishek or coronation of the people, blessed by the seasonal fall of rain, which blessed the earth, brought the harvest and fed a million villages, which in turn raised a million altars to Mother Earth. This has to become our mainstay yet, if there is to be a return to sanity and peace. There is that old adage, use a thorn to remove a thorn. It's still relevant today. We are therefore, in the communicator field, attempting to bridge these artificial gaps by a reaching out dialogue and a process of re-information. We would like to be a small thorn acting as the agent of healing by re-establishing our traditional values. It is this silent majority of our people who have lived in peace and harmony for centuries that we wish to articulate. It is this characteristic of our social fabric that has been eroded by over-politicization, that has in turn led to divisions in our midst. We need to rectify this damage before it becomes irreparable. And the NGO network in this country, NGOs such as ours, however big or small, that have a vital role to play in the finding of the formula of peace and reconciliation. Today, the conflicts between governments and NGOs in various parts of the developing third world have been highlighted in the global media, with the Philippines